Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are so happy that you have chosen to join this online course, The African Reality and Tools to Change the World. It began on August 11th. It's continuing until October 8th. There's a total of 28 90-minute classes by 25 esteemed lecturers. The classes are being recorded and are being posted on YouTube. This course has been organized by Amandla African Samaj and the Prout Research Institute. You can listen to this class in English, French, Portuguese, or Spanish due to our dedicated interpreter volunteers by clicking on the globe icon and choosing your language. So far, 142 people have registered. They're from 12 countries of Africa and 21 other countries. The 25 speakers of this course also come from many different countries of Africa and the world. Today is class number 11, entitled Sadvipra Leadership Training, How to Make Ourselves and Others Socio-Spiritual Leaders. Our speaker today is Dada Madhu Vidyananda. At the age of 19, he dedicated his life to the realization of the highest truth and the welfare of all beings. He became a yoga monk and spiritual teacher. Since then, Dada has taught meditation and yoga to thousands of people in Germany, the United States, Australia, New Zealand, Greece, Croatia, Slovenia, Albania, India, and Israel. Dada helps people to realize their true selves. In doing so, he helps them to overcome their challenges and obstacles. He shows ways to live happier, more fulfilled, and healthier. Dada published his book, 7 Secrets of Success, a guide for living a successful and fulfilling life. Dada Madhu Vidyananda founded the Menschlich Welt Humanistic World Movement and political party in 2013. He leads the party, which today has over 600 members in Germany and worldwide. In 2013, Dada founded the spiritual center Ananda Ashram in southern Germany, where he currently lives and teaches. Dada Madhu Vidyananda, please begin.
Yes. Namaskar. Namaskar, dear brothers and sisters. I would like to change the view here. I'm viewing myself, gallery view. Yes. So again, namaskar. And thank you so much for being here, and thanks to the organizers, to Dada Maheshwarananda and Guruvati and all of the organizers who made this event possible. I'm feeling very honored and privileged to be part of this course. And yes, today, yes, I had to click something here. Today we are going to learn how we can make ourselves and others sattvipras. What sattvipras are, we are going to talk about. I think I think that every one of you, or almost everyone, has heard the term already. So, how to make ourselves and others social, spiritual leaders. As Dada Maishwanana said, I'm coming to you from southern Germany. I live here in an ashram, Ananda Ashram. It's also a training center. I live here with two LFT brothers, Padmadhara from Portugal and Amrikesha from Germany, who are working here as full-time volunteers, LFTs, and some other brothers. And so we do LFT training here, we do Sadvipra training, and this is also the birthplace of our political movement and political proudest political party, Menschliche Welt, which we founded here 2013. And from here we also publish our daily proud online magazine. Every day we are publishing an online magazine, one article at least online, to promote the philosophy that is behind, that is carrying what we are going to talk and learn today about. Yeah, and with that comes that we have organized a Satvipra school, so where we give classes and seminars and trainings in leadership training and Satvipra training. People come here and also online. So these are the things that we are doing here, and let's start. How can we make ourselves and others Satvipras? So first of all, what is a Satvipra? What is a Satvipra? A Satvipra is, in 2-3 words, a spiritual social leader. The Sanskrit term Satvipra was coined by Sri P.R. Sakar, Sri Anandamurti, whom we also call Baba, because he's a spiritual master and he's also the founder of the socio-economic theory, proud progressive utilization theory. So he coined that term, Satvipra. When I refer to him now, I will take the liberty to calling him Baba, because Baba means father, beloved father, dearest one, and he is my spiritual teacher, my spiritual master, and I think for many or most of us here in this room, in this Zoom room, he is a spiritual master. And so I will just refer to him as Baba. So I'll be talking about Sri Anandamurti or Sri Prabhat Ranjan Sakar, and I will use his name that we as his disciples use, and that is Baba. So, what does the term mean? What is a Satvipra? So Satvipra is someone who is imbued with cosmic ideation, who is established in morality, and who works for humanity in a committed way, who struggles, who fights for justice, fights for humanity, fights against injustice, against immorality. That is, in short, a Satvipra. So it is a spiritual, social leader. We will talk more about these qualities a little later. So then the question comes, who is a Satvipra? Who in history can we say, yeah, there is a Satvipra? So there have been a few Satvipras in the history of humanity. I would like to take the example of a Mahasatvipra, and that is Baba himself. Baba was a Mahasatvipra, that means a great Satvipra. He was the creator of Satvipras. And so as such, he was also a Satvipra. So when I look for examples of who is a Satvipra, I look at Sri Sri Anandamurti. I look at Baba and his life, his way of living, his way of working in the society, his spiritual personality. I look at that and then I can take an example of who a Satvipra is. And we will come to his life a little bit later also when we talk about the specific characteristics of a Satvipra. So it is important to define that a Satvipra has three necessary characteristics. It's like what makes a Satvipra are these three characteristics. Without any of these three characteristics, it cannot be called a Satvipra. So the first characteristic of a Satvipra is that he or she is devoted to the Supreme Consciousness. That is the first characteristic of a Satvipra. He or she must be devoted to the Supreme Consciousness. That is the life, that is the purpose, that is the goal of a Sattvipra's life. A Sattvipra is not identified with any small class or group. His purpose or her purpose is not money, prestige, power. These are, in the end, meaningless to a Sattvipra. A Sattvipra is devoted to the Supreme Truth, to the Supreme Consciousness. This is the first necessary quality of a Sattvipra. And the second quality is that a Sattvipra is established in ethical conduct. A Sattvipra must have a matured ethical personality, established. That means the person is reliable, the person is consistent in his or her behavior, the person is incorruptible. These are not small aspects of morality, but they need to be there in a Sattvipra. And the third characteristic that a Sattvipra must have, that he must be engaged in committed work for the betterment of society, must take a responsibility, must do a public service, a commitment. A Sattvipra must be present in the society and show responsibility, show leadership. These are the three absolutely necessary qualities of a Sattvipra. So if any of these qualities is missing, that might be a wonderful person, might be a great saint, might be a yogi, yogini in the ashram, really doing spiritual practices, maybe feeding the people and doing good to the plants and everything and the animals in the ashram. But that is not enough for a Sattvipra. That is a wonderful person, is a spiritual person. But a Sattvipra does something more. A Sattvipra goes out in society and takes committed responsibility to improve the lives of the people. These are the three characteristics that make up a Sattvipra. This is the Dharma of a Sattvipra. And so, to develop these three characteristics, they need to be developed. Sattvipras engage in 4 kinds of activities. Every Sattvipra engages in these 4 main kinds of activities. Every Sattvipra has her or his own work, own field of work, which is different from person to person. But these general activities all Sattvipras share. What are these 4 activities? What's the first one? The first activity of a Sattvipra? Well, let's look at the first characteristic. To be devoted to the Supreme Consciousness, to Paramapurusha. So in order to keep this devotion, to be devoted, what does it mean? It means to think about Paramapurusha, to meditate on Paramapurusha, to love the Supreme Consciousness more than anything else. And that is being done in a very practical way through spiritual practices. A Sattvipra must do spiritual practices every day. How can a person claim to be devoted to something when he or she doesn't spend at least some time every day to think about, to care for that which a person is devoted to? So if we are devoted to the Supreme Consciousness, naturally we think about the Supreme Consciousness. We love the Supreme Consciousness. We serve the Supreme Consciousness. And by doing that, we practice meditation. Meditation is a systematic practice to concentrate, to ideate on the Supreme Consciousness. So every Sattvipra practices spiritual practices, practices meditation. Yeah, even Baba was a Mahasatvipra, who was, we could say, like an enlightened person. To show an example, he practiced meditation every day, invariably. And he advised his disciples to practice meditation twice a day, every day. So that is the first activity of a Sattvipra, to practice daily meditation, to practice daily spiritual practices. So then, the second quality flows out of the first one. It needs to be developed and cultivated separately. And that a Sattvipra practices, performs ethical conduct, not just knows about morality and is committed to morality. It shows up in the daily life. It shows up in how a Sattvipra eats, in how a Sattvipra talks, what occupation a Sattvipra is following, what a Sattvipra is doing. It shows in all these activities. In the yogic practices, we have the 10 yogic practices of Jama Niyama. Basically, to practice not harming other beings unnecessarily. So in the way we eat, it is reflected. Our ethical conduct is reflected. And truthfulness, to not lie, to not tell the lie. These things are being practiced by a Sattvipra. And as I said before, a Sattvipra is established in that. It is a matter of practice and developing, but a Sattvipra needs to be established, needs to be reliable on his morality. And Baba was an embodiment of morality. Morality also means to fight against immorality, not to close one's eyes if one sees immorality. That is also an aspect of morality. And so we can see in Baba an embodiment not only of spirituality and spiritual practices, but also of moral conduct from the beginning to the very end of his life. So this is the second of the daily practical activities of a Sattvipra. And it includes human beings. As human beings, we are not perfect. We do make mistakes. We do harm to others sometimes, even if it is with our words. So what does practicing morality mean? It includes self-reflection, self-analysis. A Sattvipra is ever ready to reflect his or her conduct, to analyze the behavior, the words that one has engaged in. And if one finds that one has done a mistake, then to not push it under the carpet. You see, that is one of the main troubles with a lot of leaders, progressive social leaders, when they get into power and they start maybe making some mistakes in order to stay in power. Not only them, so many leaders, they do that. They basically don't address their mistakes. It's natural, it's human to do mistakes. So it is a Sattvipra practices self-analysis, self-reflection, and then out of that, when a mistake has happened, rectifies the mistake, admits the mistake in the appropriate way, and rectifies it, makes up for it. This is an important aspect of ethical behavior, of being established in morality, spotless. So it includes the practice of daily reflection, daily analysis, and daily improvement of what one's conduct, of how one wants to live. So this, you can see, a Sattvipra does a lot of inner work. The more inner work we do, the better we can work in the society, in the world. The more we are one with our true self, which is unlimited benevolence, which is love, which is an awakened consciousness. The more we are one with that, the better we can do service to the world. So that's why these are the first two activities, daily activities of a Sattvipra. Then one part of ethical conduct, one part of Jamaniyama, of the 10 ethical practices in yoga, is study. The third activity of every Sattvipra is that he or she studies. We need to study. Even if we want to care for plants, for your plants in your house, in your flat, you need to study. What does the plant need? If we want to serve others, we need to study. What do they really need? The plants, do they need more shade, more water, less water? These things we need to study in a very simple way. So a Sattvipra who takes up responsibility. Modern society has so many complicated problems. One needs to study in order to understand and in order to offer solutions. So a Sattvipra is habitually, daily engaged in study, which includes the ability to think rational thinking, to develop an awakened conscience, to understand what is rational thinking, to be able to detect irrationality, to be able to detect falsehood. It is so necessary. Falsehood is the nominal cause of all social problems, of all social crimes. So a Satvipra must learn how to think things through, how to think rationally, so that he or she can detect falsehood, which is often very, very nicely hidden, especially in modern leadership and in modern society. So that is one of the skills that we learn in the next this session is in a course of 3 workshops. Today is the first workshop, then there are 2 more workshops in the same series, how to become Satvipra. And so in the next session we will talk about this, about rationalistic mentality. How do we develop our conscience? How do we take a conscientious stand? Sri Prabhat Ranjan Sakar Baba has given a very pragmatic, very clear process for that. He called it awakened conscience, a rationalistic mentality. And so a Satvipra develops that and practices it every day. And so studies. When you want to serve, when you want to lead, you must have some knowledge. And for that, it is necessary to study. So every Satvipra is engaged in study. So that was the third one. Then finally, the fourth activity that every Satvipra engages, these are inner works, these are preparation. The fourth activity is a Satvipra takes up a duty, a responsibility, a post, an office, takes up a charge. I am in charge. I take this responsibility. I show up. You can count on me. I am responsible. I am reliable. I will show up. I will do my duty for the benefit, for the betterment of society. That is what a Satvipra does. He takes a public responsibility, just like Baba. From the beginning of his organization, he was the president. He was taking the duty, the charge, the responsibility of being the president of this spiritual social organization, and he founded many others also, which he was also leading and supervising. And he was the president of Anandamaga from the beginning to the very end. And he was showing up as the president every day. He was showing how one performs ideally one's social responsibility. That's why I was saying before, when we want to look at examples for Satvipra, I like to look at Baba's life and see how he performs all these activities. And one of them was to take a public responsibility and show up. Show that you are committed. Just like a physician who runs a clinic. People depend on her. So she shows up. She makes sure that her clinic runs. So Satvipra has that kind of public commitment. These are the 4 characteristics, the 4 activities of a Satvipra. That every Satvipra, whatever work they are doing, is engaged in. Yes. So Satvipra is a way of life. You may think now, wow, these characteristics and these activities, they are quite a handful. Yes, life is quite a handful. As we all experience, life has its challenges. Life has problems. Life has hardships. So a Satvipra chooses to practice that which will help him and help others to develop themselves. A Satvipra is a lifestyle of love, a lifestyle of devotion, a lifestyle of commitment. So it becomes natural to become a Satvipra, to be a Satvipra by practicing these activities. It becomes natural. No, we start by practicing every day something, meditation. You practice meditation every day, and by repeating the activity, what happens? You form a habit. People start smoking a little bit, sometimes, then more regularly, then what happens? They develop a habit. Whatever you do regularly, it becomes a habit. So when we practice meditation, we practice it every day, it becomes our habit. And our habit, when we cultivate it, when we nurture it, becomes part of our nature. It is part of our nature to meditate. It becomes part of our identity. We become a meditator. We become someone for whom meditation is an absolute necessary, just like brushing the teeth and eating every day. We do it. We brush the teeth every day. It is necessary. So it becomes our nature, it becomes our personality, and ultimately it becomes our destiny. We embody it. Satvipras, ultimately, they embody what they live for. They embody the devotion to Paramapurusha. They embody morality. They embody necessary knowledge, and they embody service. So now we have heard what the three characteristics of a Sattvipra are, what the four main activities of a Sattvipra are. So what is the sacred duty of a Sattvipra? What is the duty that only a Sattvipra can perform? The sacred duty of a Sattvipra is when society is in such a state that the rulers exploit the population, the people, then it is the sacred duty of the Sattvipras to become active and to protect the innocent, the righteous people, and to fight against the immorality, against the exploitation, and to move the dynamics of the society forward. That is the sacred duty of a Sattvipra. Only Sattvipras can do this task. Baba has actually said only Sattvipras can save humanity. Please let us sink into your heart. Only Sattvipras can save humanity. Humanity is in such a crisis that the problems are quite complicated. They need spiritual personalities. They need completely dedicated spiritual personalities who have enough competence, enough knowledge, enough willpower, enough courage, and enough skills to offer solutions, to offer leadership. This present crisis of humanity, which is a crisis of existence, one of the inspirations that we got starting our proudest party in Germany, Menschliche Welt, came from a discourse that Baba gave in 79 in Frankfurt. That was an unusual discourse, brothers and sisters. And there were very unusual circumstances how Baba came for 2 days to Germany without visa. His visa had already expired. He had already been to Germany. He had no more visa. But he insisted he wants to go and visit Germany one more time. And so somehow the German authorities allowed him to enter even though he didn't have a visa. It was unusual for German bureaucracy, but it showed Baba's extreme determination to come to Germany one more time. And in that visit, he gave a quite unique talk. You can look it up. It's called To Save Humanity. And there he says, humanity is now facing an existential crisis. There have been many crises in the history of humanity, but now humanity is facing a crisis of existence. Humanity has to decide whether to live or to die. And there are already the death signals, Baba said. The death signals can be heard. So it is the duty of every spiritual aspirant to save humanity. It is the duty of the Satvipras to save humanity from this existential crisis. And so I gave it a meaning that Baba said these strong words. He has said something similar a few weeks before in Istanbul, where he said dogmas, the dogmas of humanity endanger the psychic existence of humanity. But to say it so clearly that we are facing an existential crisis of survival, that clearly Baba said in Frankfurt. And he had his reasons to pronounce it in Frankfurt, in Germany. And so we took inspiration from that and did whatever we can. What can we do to contribute, to do our part in creating Sattvipras? In order for Sattvipras to change the society, we need Sattvipras in the first place. So how are Sattvipras being created? Sattvipras are being created, according to Baba, through mental, intellectual, and spiritual training. Mental, intellectual, and spiritual training. So that's what we started. We started our ashram here, we started trainings, we started Sattvipra trainings, and then how to continue the training, how to become practical. In Germany, it was quite feasible to start a political party because in the end, Sattvipras need to take leadership. And in the Vaishyan age, which we are experiencing, Sattvipras may need to take part and contest in elections. So, taking these guidelines from Baba, we started the political protest party Menschliche Welt, which means humanistic world. That is the meaning of the party. And so it came, one of the inspirations came from this talk of Baba. So the unique role of Sattvipras is nowadays to save humanity from an existential crisis. And that's why, dear brothers and sisters, this may sound so far pretty basic and simple to you, and it is also. But to put it into practice is something else. If we do just that, what we have talked about just now, we are able to give Sattvipra leadership. So I'd like to concretize a bit more concretely. How can you and I make ourselves and others Sattvipra? We have already talked about it. Let's do it very specifically. First, the first activity. Commit to practice your spiritual practices every day sincerely. And if you're doing that, intensify it. In this way, you develop your sattvipra qualities. For the followers of Sri Sri Anandamurti of Baba in Anandamaga, he has given such clear guidelines to meditate twice a day invariably. And those who have further lessons to practice all the lessons at least twice a day. Let's do it in our life. And there are many other spiritual practices. Kirtan, to practice asanas, to practice all your lessons. Implement your will to become sattvipra by doing that. Look, there are four main things that you need to do to develop yourself as sattvipra. You need a will, and you have the will. That's why you're here. That's why we have come together here, because we have the will to learn how we can make ourselves sattvipra. So then it needs the will, it needs the wisdom. So we need to know how to do it. This Baba has given in every possible detail. He has given us the knowledge, how to do it. He has given us the lessons, the meditation, how to practice meditation. What a grace you have received by learning the science of meditation, of spiritual practices. Implement it every day. Kirtan, asanas, lessons, and other practices like Dharma Chakra, weekly meditations, Panchajanya. The more you do, the more you develop your sattvipra qualities. I'm talking extremely pragmatic. Practice it pragmatically. Look at your sadhana and make it more sincere and intensify it. In this way, you make yourself sattvipra. And in a second, every day, look at your yama niyama. Look at your conduct. Get into the habit of self-analysis. Really, it is part of Baba's program. It is part of one of the conduct rules that Baba has enshrined in Charya, what to do and what not to do. Self-analysis. To every day check in how I've been doing. There are some things that I can improve. To be conscious about it, to work on it, to cultivate that. Very practical way. Look at your jama and niyamas every day, at your satya. Benevolent communication. How benevolently have you communicated? And maybe have you said something that afterwards you thought, that was maybe less than I would have liked to express? And then to at least acknowledge to yourself and make up for it. Work on your ethical conduct, on your spiritual practices, on your ethical conduct. And part of that, dear brothers and sisters, is daily swadhyaya. Daily, at least, studying spiritual scriptures. I begin my work day every day with first reading something from the writings of Sri Sri Anandamurti. What does it do? It gives you knowledge, it gives you inspiration. It sets the tone. The first thing that you feed yourself in the day as a spiritualist is a short meditation. The practice of waking up in the morning and then first of all think about your divine goal, about your supreme self, about your guru. Set the day with that. We have a practice for that in Anandamaga, Guru Sakash, and it brings you under the shelter. It brings you under the inspiration and the shelter of the Guru. That's how we start the day. Then we practice meditation. See the priorities. The priorities are sadhana, are spiritual practices, devotion to the Supreme Consciousness. And so then, when the spiritual practice is done, then I recommend what I do. I then do a little bit at least of Svadhyaya to feed my intellect with spiritual inspiration from Baba. It gives me knowledge every day, it gives me inspiration every day. And then, of course, like for example, I'm engaged in the daily Proudest magazine. So there we publish articles. Then we need to research different articles, have different topics. So then according to your work, according to your situation, according to your country, according to your service that you are rendering, you study cooperatives, how to run the cooperatives, how to overcome the pitfalls, how to look at successful ways of running a cooperative. So that needs studying and implementing. So make it a daily habit to read spiritual scriptures. I recommend to get into the habit of reading every day something from Baba. And that's also first thing of intellectual feeding in the day. Not the handy, not the news, not the TV, radio, not the emails. That will come. Let us set our priorities right. Our priorities are devotion to the Supreme Truth. I mean, our heart longs to be one with the divine, with the eternal bliss. So then we set ourselves towards that, on that highway, when we start the day with spiritual practice, and when we start our feeding of our intellect, of our mind, with spiritual content, with spiritual texts. So in a very concrete way. So these things you can do, you can implement, starting from when? When is a good time to become a Satvipra? See, even Baba has said something very, very nice here. He has said, it is the duty of every spiritual aspirant to make themselves Satvipra, and that too from this very moment. When is a good time to start? To make yourself a Satvipra? It is now. It is now, it is today, and it is every day. And where is the right place? It is wherever you are. In your family, in your community, you can contribute something. You can go out and contribute something in your organization, wherever you are. The better it is when you are able to work together with others. That is the work of a Satvipra, because in order to solve the bigger problems of society, I mean, we can easily see it requires not one person shows, it requires collective endeavor, collective leadership. So one thing that Satvipras need to study and need to learn is to cooperate, to work together. So you can do that in your family, learning how to work together with your partner, with your kids, with your parents, and with your neighbors, with your community, and with the people in your organization. So these are very, very practical things that you can start, that you are doing already, and you can just reflect and cultivate on another level. And the fourth one is very practically take a duty. In our mission, Ananda Marga actually is one of our fundamental practices to take up a responsibility, to take up a duty in the organization. Even if it's just to say, every week when we meet for group meditation, I take care of the altar, of the table, I take care of the cleaning, I show up, I take a duty. So to just pronounce to a group of people, I am committed and I am taking a responsibility, I am taking a duty in the household. From now on, I will take the duty of taking out the trash. Whatever it is, small baby steps, big steps, I'm taking the responsibility of starting some activity, some campaign in my country to promote spirituality, to teach meditation, or to promote a cause, a social cause, whatever it is, whatever you're engaged in, it helps to have a responsibility, a post, a commitment that people know you will show up. So these are extremely practical things that I wanted to just discuss with you. When we ask ourselves how we make ourselves Satvipra, this is the answer. We have just given the answer. These are the steps we make ourselves Satvipra. And then how do we make others Satvipra? First of all, we make ourselves Satvipra. By making ourselves Satvipra, we become an example of being a Satvipra. And by taking a responsibility, it includes working with others together. They can learn from us how we behave, how we think, how we speak, what we do. And so then we widen the circle of our engagement, of our commitment. And in this way, we make others Satvipra. So, as I said, this is the first part of a 3 series of classes on this topic. This is the basis. This is the foundation. Then in the next class, I would like to go with you a little deeper in the aspect of developing competence, of learning how to think rationally, how to make conscientious decisions, how to awaken your conscience. There are 3 steps of awakening your conscience. There are steps of how to decide if something is rational, something is irrational. In the next 2 classes, we will learn the criteria, how to detect if something is rational or something is irrational. We learn what are the elements of thought, what are the elements of rational thinking, what is necessary to, what is part of rational thinking. Really, the ability to think things through, to think rationally, is necessary for a social leader. And the ability to detect irrational thinking, to detect falsehood in society, particularly in the defective leadership, which is the cause of the suffering. It is defective leadership. So in order not to fall prey to that, to look through it, we need to learn how to think rationally. We will be learning in the next classes. So for now, I'd like to end here and offer our room for questions, because so far I've just been talking. And I thank you so much for your patient and attentive being with me. Now, if you have some questions, I'm sure Dada Maheshwananda and the organizers have worked that out. how to go about it. So if anyone has
Yes.
questions, then let's do it.
Okay. Guruvati asks one question. She says the meaning of the word Sadvipra is a person who is moralist and a spiritualist and who fights against immorality. The question is, for those who do not practice spirituality, how do they become Sadvipra? Hold on, let me try to mute this. Somebody's making noise.
Yes. A person who is not a spiritualist, how do they make themselves a Satvipra? A person who has the desire to serve society and does not find that he or she is a spiritualist needs to understand what it means to be a spiritualist. What it means to be a spiritualist is to acknowledge consciousness, to acknowledge one's consciousness, to acknowledge, to just notice that you are more than just your physical body and your thoughts. Just to notice that you have a physical body, that you have thoughts, but that they come and go. But you, as a self, remains. So when you learn that you are more, or I should say, get a feeling that you are more than your body and your thoughts, that you are actually being the observer of your thoughts. That means you can say, I know that I have thoughts. I am aware that I am thinking. I am the awareness. I am the consciousness that remains. So that is constant. There's consciousness in me prior to thoughts. And if that person takes a little time to go inside and feel inside his or her heart, then that person can feel that in the heart there is a benevolence, there is a kindness, that whatever happens deep in our heart, there is a benevolence, there's a kindness that remains whatever happens. It is constant. So when we acknowledge that as something permanent in us, some benevolence, that we want good for ourselves and for others, and when we recognize that we are more than our body and thoughts, that we are a consciousness, and then we make some endeavor to develop this consciousness, that through some practices, through meditation, then we, by practicing meditation, we become a spiritualist. Every human being has a spirit, a consciousness, has deep inner benevolence. All it takes is to put attention towards that. Everyone can learn to do that. In our mission, We teach people children from the age of 5 to practice meditation. Everyone can learn and practice it. And in that way, everyone can become a spiritualist. And it is necessary to be a spiritualist in order to be a reliable, incorruptible leader. If I want to be that really strong in the face of so many obstacles, then I need to develop my consciousness. And I know how to do it. Everyone can learn how to do it. That's what we are here for. So that's what I can say to answer that question.
Thank you. Brother Ishtadeva has his hand up. Ishtadeva, if you unmute yourself, you can go ahead.
Yes, Dada. Thank you so much. Namaskar, Dada Mudhu Vidyananda. I know from
Namaskar,
time to
Shakti.
time we have been discussing on WhatsApp, and yeah, just to humbly add something to Guru Vati's question. Baba says clearly in one song, one Prabhat Sangit, 2222, that you are the replica of the supreme consciousness that pervades the world. You have never tried to look within. Everything is ever hidden within you. Hence, look within. So the response is that we have to go, whosoever we are, we have to go within ourselves. As Margis or non-Margis. Non-Margis also, they have the opportunity to go and to go as we are the replica of that supreme consciousness, we have to identify with that supreme consciousness within. And so many times in many cultures in the world, people have asked God to provide them with a Superman. And Baba has given us a Superman called a Sadvipra. And that Sadvipra is transformed, is forged through what Baba has given. Baba has given his own technique. Is forged through Tantra, through the different stages of Tantra. We have Sadharana Yoga, Vishesh Yoga, Sahaj Yoga, etc. But the main clear point is the inner transformation, and that inner transformation is going to give just like a pipeline, which is going to open to something really special that a Sadvipra should have, is devotion. That devotion is really the key. And inside that devotion, we are going to discover who is the, I will call it the proprietor of that devotion. So Baba says also, whosoever we are, Sadvipras or not, presidents of the republic or not, ministers or what, we will have to respond to someone superior. And when we identify ourselves within and know that that supreme entity is within us strongly, then our output, our outlook in society is just going to be like a trickle down something, trickle down morality, trickle down economics, trickle down psychology, and we are never going to neglect anyone ever, whosoever. So the first step that I'm very, very happy that you have touched the essential points of this. Really, I'm flattered. I'm really blessed to listen to you today. Thank you so much. Namaskar.
Thank you for your wonderful extension and contribution to our topic today. Thank you. Lovely. Dada Meshwan, are you talking? Because we don't hear you.
Yes, it would help to unmute myself. Excuse me. Thank you. The next question is from Brother Shiva. He asks, there are so many duties one can commit to, but only so many hours in a day. What are the criteria one ought to consider in selecting duties?
What criteria to select duty? Mhm. When I look at options, I first look at Baba's guidance. Now, I like to follow the simple directions. So then I have a pretty clear hierarchy of what my duties are. And that I already mentioned. The first duty is sincere sadhana as a service to Paramapurusha, as a service to Guru. And so Baba has given the duties that we need to do. Then we have taken certain oath. At the time of initiation, we have taken certain oath. For example, if we are married, we have taken certain oath. If we have children and we have done baby naming ceremony, so we have certain duties, certain responsibilities for our family, for our partner, for our children. No, these are fundamental ranking duties to do. And then furthermore, then in terms of Sadvipra, what are the duties? Then Baba has given so many, as you say, so many options are there, what to do. Then I ask myself, what would Baba like me to do, and what am I capable of doing? What am I practically capable of doing and can do and want to do? I need to feel for it. It must come from my heart. So it comes out of sadhana. How this place here happened. I was at the graveyard doing meditation, and I was asking Baba, what concretely? I found myself in Germany, which I hadn't planned to, due to some organizational circumstances, and so I was going to be here for some time. And so then I asked very deeply at the time where I was silent in the graveyard, Baba, what would you like me to do? So I was listening, and then the answer that came to me was, Baba asked me, what do you want to do? That was the answer. So I said, Baba, I just want to please you, and how I would like to please you is by helping people to become Satvipras and establish a center to do that. So then for me the answer came, do that. Do that. That is directly of what Baba has told us to do. He has given us clearly the duty to create a Satvipra society and to save humanity. So then I need to apply my intellect and the intellect of the people I work with, how to do that best way, practically. So in my case, it was obvious. We first need a spiritual center. We first need a Jagati, an ashram, to gather the people, to have the ability to train. And so after that was done, then how to continue the training to do political work. I was not able to lead a classical Samaj movement, for example, in Germany. As a monk, I was not, and Germany is very complicated in terms of a national, a healthy national interest sentiment and a national good sense of identity as a people. So it is very complicated, but I was able to create an organization which will serve as a platform for people to be trained and develop themselves as Satvipra and develop extremely practical and pragmatic Satvipra skills. So that's what I was doing. So when you ask yourself, what would Baba want me to do? What are his main instructions? And then what can I do in my situation, in my locality, in my country? In many countries, it wouldn't be feasible to start a political party in order to do Sadvipra work, Sadvipra training. It would start somewhere completely else. In African countries nowadays, Africa is so many difficulties are there, so many struggles. In Niger, so many things are going on. So every situation is very, very unique. What can I do? But the fundamental we find already in the Supreme Command to lead others along the path of righteousness, to do prachar, to spread meditation, to spread spirituality, to inspire people for initiation. To inspire people for initiation. The beginning of spiritual life comes with spiritual practice. So that's a very practical orientation. And then what capacities do I have? To have a capacity translating. And great thanks to the wonderful translators here who are translating this into the different languages. No, that is their duty. They have the capability to doing that. Am I able to write, to publish articles? Am I good at education? Do I want to educate? Do I really feel for developing farms and cultivating land to develop for my community food independence, whatever it is? So it will crystallize. In my experience, following Baba's guidance and following the inner, as we just heard a repetition from Ishtadeva, going inside first, and from inside through the connection with the Guru, it will crystallize. And then what we learn also in the next session, asking right questions, pariprashna, well-directed questions, is a great skill to help us make better decisions. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Dada. Guruvati asks another question. What do you think of the coups in Africa? Some Africans have begun to grow hateful towards France, the ones that were colonized by France. Personally, I don't think that it's by hating others that we solve our own problems. What advice can you give to Africans in terms of Savipra?
Yes, thank you. That is a great question. The first part of the question is certainly that hatred and aggression, anger, is not a solution. It is a negative state of mind. Anger and hatred makes the mind narrow, so it doesn't help. To understand the situation, to be able to think rationally, for that it takes not much in my experience. I mean, I've looked a little bit at Niger. I mean, it is obvious the incredible exploitation that the African continent and Niger as one of the countries has suffered under the hands of mostly of the European colonizers, and the continued exploitations with the totally unjust contracts between the EU and African countries, and France, for example, with the monetary contracts and all that, including Niger. It is good to understand that, to understand history and to understand the present situation, and to think how to best move towards solutions, not by hatred, but by understanding, by rationalistic mentality, by analyzing the situation. We need to analyze the situation and come up with solutions. We can offer these solutions. And I can understand the suffering people of Africa, and I can understand the people who say we have had enough. It is right to demand and to work and to fight for the rights, for example, of the land, to fight for the rights to utilize one's own resources, to build one's own economy, to protect one's economy from external manipulation and exploitation. That is only right. How to go about it with the complexities of modern geopolitics, that's another question. But I think at this point, Guruvati and brothers and sisters, we are at a different stage of our organization, of our development as a proud movement, as a Samaj movement. It's the same. I can give you an example from our work in Germany. We do not concentrate for example, our election campaigns. Next year there will be European elections. We already have to start the campaign now. We do not concentrate ourselves on political issues at this point. We concentrate ourselves at fundamentals. We basically tell that the problems of the society lie in defective leadership, that the leaders think too much about keeping their power, their party power, their political power, and they don't think firstly about the welfare of the people. So it is a defective thinking, and we need to change that thinking. And to change that thinking, we need practices, we need training. Meditation helps to connect to one's true conscience, to one's benevolence. It gives a clear mind. It helps to do good decisions. So we actually focus our campaign on saying we promote ethical standards in politics, and we promote meditation, which has become an accepted mainstream practice and value as a tool for better politics, for better politicians. And we have enough to do with that. And in this way, we attract a lot of spiritually minded, progressive people. And what can we offer them best? We can offer them to develop themselves at Sadvipras. So we in Germany find ourselves at that stage, and that would be I cannot, I don't know the detailed situation in Africa, but I can say in general, if we at this point spread spirituality, as Baba has said, the first step of spreading neo-humanism, of implementing a neo-humanistic society, the first step is spiritual cult, spiritual practice. We need to practice it ourselves. The second one is spiritual as an essence. That means we need to change the collective mind towards spiritual outlook, towards spiritual values. For that, we need to spread spirituality and spiritual practices. So it is basically the strategy that we are doing in Germany, and we find it is the only practical and very fruitful strategy that we are doing, because in this way we do create new sadhakras, we do create new margis, we do create new sadvipras, and we do create new candidates for our campaigns, which need to have a certain standard of ideological understanding and all that. So that's what I would say in general could be an outlook for you in your proud and Samaj work in Africa? Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Dadaji. One brother has his hand up, and I wish he would unmute himself and speak, but I don't know what his name is. One brother has his hand up.
Ne fais pas, t'embrasses ta cette écureuil avec Dieu. C'est pas ce que je voulais, mais faire. Merci beaucoup de
That
m'avoir
doesn't
sauvé.
sound like the question. So I can't call on the brother because the hand is not there.
Yes.
Dada Danishananda expressed that he was sorry he couldn't come to the class, but that the little bit that he heard at the end, he said, due to emergency, he was late. What I heard was wonderful. I will be sure to watch on YouTube and to attend the subsequent sessions. I've been thinking along the same lines, but I think you have clarified things and put into sharp focus the essence of what spiritual leadership really is. Dada, I'm going to express an opinion, if you don't mind.
Please.
The brother is Pranam. Is Pranam here? I'm going to express an opinion that I think it's important for Proudest to focus not on criticizing, like you are avoiding criticizing, but I think it's important to focus on solutions. What are practical solutions that society should adopt to overcome the climate crisis, to overcome the other problems that each country faces? And Prout gives a lot of solutions: cooperatives, three-tier economy. I mean, there's a lot of details there. Reforestation. I mean, a lot of campaigns that I think we could, both campaigns of others we could support and campaigns that we could promote. That's my opinion. There's another question. Are the coups in West Africa the sign that the domination of the Vaishyan capitalist exploiters is nearing the end and the Katrians are taking power? This is from Govinda. Are the coups in Africa the sign that the domination of the Vaishyans is near the end and the Katrians are taking power?
Mm-hmm. That is a very good question. I would like to say that for me, it remains to be seen. Geopolitics are so complicated at the moment and so deceiving that I think for me it would take some time to clarify and crystallize. I must say I don't have enough information to voice an educated opinion about that. Certainly, Burkina Faso and Mali have had significant changes in their leadership, and now Niger. It's to change from Vaishyan to Kshatriya. That is a long process of an age changing. That's complicated with the powers of colonialism. As I said, for me, it remains to be seen how this develops, including in Niger. As we know, the US power is still very much dominant in Africa. And for me, it remains to be seen. And the US power is an extreme power of the Vaishyan age. So what our work is to move towards a Satvipra revolution. And for that, it requires Satvipras and Satvipra organization. And we have enough to do with that. And as Dada was just now saying, we can concentrate on the constructive. We can publish constructive solutions. We can publish inspiration, individual inspiration for people to develop themselves, for them to do something that we can do. We do that with our daily Proud magazine. There's so much analysis. This is problem, this is problem, this is bad. Very wonderful analysis, but people get kind of bogged down with this analysis of all these negatives. We offer some analysis and mostly solutions, inspiration that like lifts people up. So I would like to, suggest, just like Dada, to move in this way, to move in a constructive way, by offering solutions, even on the personal level, through spiritual practices, on the leadership level, through engaged ethical conduct, and Satvipras will emerge, and there is a strong development of Kshatriyans with the military forces having taken over there, but it may not be the end of the story. So for me, it would be a bit early to say. What I can say is that our task is, for me, pretty clear. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Dadaji. I put in the chat a link to evaluate this class, a simple form you can fill out in a couple minutes. Also, the link to the recordings of the previous classes. Our good brother Ramadeva in Ireland, he's finishing his physics graduate studies. He's doing the editing, but it takes him a few days before he can put up the classes. So it takes about a week or so before you can see this class, for example. But all the classes are going up. Okay, Guruvati has another question, which is an excellent question, I think. From Guru Charan. Dear Dadaji, what are the points of convergence between a proudest and a Sadvipra? What are the points of convergence between a proudest and a Sadvipra?
Mm-hmm. A proudest, we have heard in detail who is a Satvipra. A proudist is someone who has understood and stands for proud, the progressive utilization theory. In order to be more than just the name of a proudist should embody the fundamental values of proud, isn't it? Which is spirituality, which is morality, which is ethics, which is progressive utilization of the resources. I mean, if someone is a proudist, the person should embody that. Otherwise, it's just a name. So I would say that every proudist is a sattvipra. There are different stages of a sattvipra. There can be the stage of just developing, being a baby sattvipra, so to speak, working in the local community. And then there can be the stage of a sattvipra who has the competence of guiding world affairs. So there are different stages. But the proudest, who is someone who represents the values of proud, should be a sattvipra. Now a sattvipra may or may not know about proud. It is possible, surely, in this world to be a sattvipra and not proudest in the sense that the person knows about proud. But a sattvipra embodies the same values. So we could say that every sattvipra is embodying the values of proud, which is spirituality, which is morality, which is the progressive utilization of all resources, which is social justice, not overaccumulation by a few. These are fundamental values of proud. So every sattvipra would be in accordance with proud. So there is quite a bit of convergence. But as I say, there can be a sattvipra who has never heard the name of proud. If the person is committed to the supreme consciousness, to the divine, is leading an ethical life, and is doing something concrete, taking some concrete office, work, responsibility for the society. Yes.
Thank you, Dadaji.
Thank you.
There's a few more questions that are coming. Shiva Priya says, shouldn't this formation of Sattvipra leaders be closely linked to the effort to transform the education system, considering that an integral education is a path to the full development of human beings?
What is the first part of the question again? Shouldn't
this formation of Sattvipra leaders be closely linked to the effort to transform the education system? Because it's an integral path to the full development of human beings.
Yes, definitely. Whoever asked that question, it needs to be linked. First of all, in order to become sattvipras, we need education. We need to educate ourselves. And then to create a Satvipra revolution, it requires more than some political change. It requires a change in culture. It requires a change in consciousness. It requires a change in the education system. And then again, if we look at Baba's work, at Baba's strategy, how did he start? How much importance from the beginning to the end of his life? How did he start? With educational activities, starting Anandamaga schools. How did he end in the last days of his life? He gave emphasis on Gurukul, on education. It is fundamental. How do the defective leaders perpetuate their power and their leadership? By completely fabricating or making the education system in such a way that the education system leads towards creating consumers and passive followers of the system. So we definitely, the development of Satvipras and development of Satvipra leadership must go hand in hand with reforming the education system, with building a new education system as we do with the humanistic education, with Gurukul, and with working on the political level to change the entire education system. That is also one of our prime political demands in our election manifesto. Yes, thank you.
Boy. How to start Savipra training in African countries, Guruvati asks. How to start Savipra training in African countries?
Yes, another very good and practical question. Thank you for that. In order to start a Sadvipra training, it requires what? It requires trainers. It requires people who are wanting to be trained as Sadvipras. It requires a place and it requires a time. So those who are here now, for example, from Africa, who have interest in Satvipra training, in my experience, really, the training that we do here, Satvipra training is a life. It's life. It's life. That's why we have the ashram, because people come here to live the training. One can do so much online, that's okay. Intellectual, development, and also online doing meditation together and all that. That's fine. It's a good start. But really, the best way of doing it is to physically come together. So how to start? It requires someone who's ready to teach classes, some people who are ready to learn, who want to be part of the classes, for them to come together and to make a place and a time. The person teaching or the persons teaching, of course, must be so competent that they are ready with a curriculum, with the materials, with what the training entails, what are the lessons. So Guruvati, the practical steps would be to find out who can train there in Africa. I would say online training. I think we have already this course is an online course. The different things that the course is about ways to change the society. So it is part of a Satvipra training The thing is to do it really systematic and meaningful. In my experience, it requires really satsang, physical satsang, coming together, living together, and that's on a scheduled, regular basis, on whatever basis. Our Sadvipra school, basically, it has scheduled regular seminars, several times a year, where people come, learn more things, and then it has scheduled activities in relation to our party. For example, now people are going out and having to go into the cities to collect signatures, because we need to get 4,000 signatures to come to the ballot. So there are some very practical lessons, some practical activities. So it's all part of the training. What it requires first, Guruvati, in my experience, is a core group. Is a core group of maybe just at least 2-3 people who are ready to materialize it, and then take it from there, see where the interest is and where the place can be and what times it can be. This is what I can say from a very practical point of view. Yes.
I think we're done with the questions. Actually, Alma says, Guru Charan says the best thing. He says, Merci, Dadaji. Thank you.
Merci. Merci to you all, and merci again, particularly also to the organizers. I would just like to say about next week's session. One of the ways to learn best is to express what one has learned. So the next session, if it can be done technically, I always start the sessions with a teach back. That means we form pairs, and people will teach back what they learned in the last session. It is good if you have taken notes. If not, then I would encourage you maybe to go back now or sit down and take some notes. You will notice how much more you retain when you take notes. And so the next session will be about, as I said, about rationalistic mentality, rational thinking. What are the steps of rational thinking? And before we start that, we will do teach back of what we have learned today. So please be prepared for that. I hope we can implement that technically. And that is what I would like to say. In the meantime, in this coming week, I think you have some time to reflect on the simple points. I think you can remember the 3 main qualities and the 4 main activities, and go deep. Just see what you can do, and then the questions help to crystallize a bit more. If you're interested in doing something in Africa, see if you can find a core group of those who would be ready to teach something and to make it happen. So see how it goes. In different countries, you will just see who is available. I and our school here is always ready to assist, to help. We have helped our brothers and sisters in New Zealand, for example, to get started with some of such activities, and with a political party, which they have formed also, I think 2 years ago. So we are ready to assist and to help. And I'm sure there are many dadas and didis who can teach, and senior margis who can teach some steps about what we talked about now, and start the process. And then I would like to And the way I usually start also, this time
Guru Bhati has another question she wants to ask you, Dada.
All right.
Namaskar, Dada. I think you kind of answered my question because I was going to ask if you could be one of the trainers and also how to find the trainers.
Yes. Yes, Guru Vadi. As I said, I did answer the question. I am always ready to assist. As I say, it would be to assist physically there. That I cannot commit. I would love to. I would love to be able to travel to Africa and to offer a Satvipra training session. It is not impossible, but at this point I could only commit to doing something more from a distance online. So that is the first part, and the second part is how to find trainers. I would start by asking the if for online, I would like to suggest to also ask Dada Maheshwananda and Dada Gyanananda, Gyanananda, particularly if they would be willing to do something like this online. As I say, for being there, I would suggest to start by asking the dadas and didis who are maybe part of this course, Dada Daneshananda. So I don't know who is in touch with your group of Margis and Proutists who are interested in this, and ask if there are some what are the possibilities? What are the possibilities of offering something in some country? So I would address those potential trainers and see how we can go from there.
Okay, thank you, Dada.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dada. You were ending.
Yes, I would like to end the way I usually also start, with a short kirtan. We didn't start with the kirtan because there was kirtan actually playing before the session started. So I'd like to end with a short kirtan, and the next session I will start with a short kirtan, and then I will do some introduction, and as I said, then we will do teach back and learn the absolutely necessary practical skill of rational thinking according to the guidelines that Baba has given. So this will be just a short kirtan to end our session.
Thank you, Dada. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you,
Namaskar.
everyone. And thank you again, Dada Maheshwarananda and the organizers. I appreciate it. Okay.